I'm Shannon Henry, an applications engineer here at EMA Design Automation. Today we're going to be talking about team collaboration in the design process. Communication and collaboration during a project are vital to ensure your design is completed on time and on budget. There are many aspects to manage in a design and many stakeholders, but who is responsible for what? Throughout the design, you must keep in mind the needs of the customer. This is the person you are designing for, internal or external, that will set the requirements for the project. To keep the customer happy, consider cost, time, and quality. The customer communicates the scope and requirements of the project to the project manager. The project manager is responsible for the project completion on time and on budget. The project manager considers environmental and cost requirements, as well as the resources needed to complete the project. The project manager then oversees both the design and manufacturing teams to keep the project on track. The design team consists of mechanical and electrical engineers, as well as the PCB designer. The mechanical engineer is responsible for the design of the mechanical enclosure. This will dictate the size and shape requirements of the PCB. In many companies, roles are consolidating. The electrical engineer and the PCB designer are becoming one. Electrical engineers are now responsible for the full front-to-back design. The electrical engineer is responsible for converting the customer's requirements into design specifications. From these specifications, they create the schematic. The schematic and mechanical constraints are then passed to the PCB designer. The PCB designer is responsible for the PCB layout, routing, and completion. While on paper this might seem like an easy task, there are many factors that need to be considered to create a functional PCB. The PCB designer is also responsible for the fabrication and assembly data that will be used in the finished product. Within the design team, there is a constant flow of information between the mechanical engineer and the electrical engineer. For a successful project, the EE or PCB designer will also need to communicate with each member of the manufacturing team. The manufacturing team consists of the assembly manufacturing engineer, the test engineer, and the PCB fabrication sales engineer. The AME is responsible for the PCB assembly and completing the assembly quickly with the highest yield and lowest cost. They will review and scrub the bill of materials to ensure the assembly process runs smoothly. The purpose of the test engineer is to catch any errors that were introduced in the assembly process. They will determine the nets and components that need to be tested throughout the assembly and in the finished product. Once they have defined the testing requirements, the TE may create a test fixture. The FSE is responsible for obtaining the required bare board for the PCB assembly. They will also facilitate communication between the design team and the fabrication house. This will allow them to answer any technical questions regarding manufacturing tolerances, materials, or meeting impedance requirements. Within the manufacturing team, the AME must communicate with both the FSE and TE to avoid any assembly issues. The FSE must also communicate with the purchasing agent or fabrication house. As we mentioned before, communication and collaboration are key for any successful project. Whatever your role is, help the project run smoothly by communicating with the correct stakeholders and always keep in mind the customer. If you have additional topics you would like to see in our Whiteboard Wednesday sessions, go ahead and add them in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today, and be on the lookout for more Whiteboard Wednesday sessions from the PCB design experts here at EMA Design Automation.